All right, this morning we are joined by Mbugua, who's the Managing Director of the Kenya Airports Authority, and we're going to be talking about everything to do with airport infrastructure in Kenya. Just to bring you in, Madam Lucy, it's just that Kenya Airports Authority seems to have come of its own in the last 1 year and seems to have gotten like the kick that it needed just after that August 7th fire in 2013. Perhaps what are some of the things that were lacking there before that Kenya Airports is actually putting in place to modernize airport infrastructure in this country?
Michael, maybe we hadn't had a fire before. Maybe that's the difference. Yeah. Because I think the fire shocked all of us. I think it showed us what can happen to a business. It looked like our business was over, and I think that really put some sort of injection into everyone. Yeah. And I think that was what has brought what we are seeing today.
How scary was that realization that perhaps if things didn't go according to plan and JKA had to shut down for perhaps even a week and kind of lost opportunities that were there? How much of a realization was that just to get things kickstarted at JKA?
I think, you know, on that morning of the fire, I even saw some, a lot of even staff were crying. I think they could see for them, this is a loss of a job. And for the country, and you know JKA contributes a lot to the country, I think the losses would have been devastating. So everybody who was involved was going to lose something. If it wasn't the airlines like Kenya Airways, if it wasn't immigration, if it wasn't KAA, I think that's what made everybody get together and decide that no, we are not going to have another day without flights resuming. And that is why we resumed flights on the very first day of the fire.
Yeah. Was there like a contingency plan in place, or was everything just being done on the fly?
You know, Michael, you never prepare for anything like that.
Yeah.
I think all our plans had been on if there's an accident, but never about a fire in a building. You could see even the fire trucks that we had were all meant to handle aircraft fires. They were not supposed to handle buildings. So there was no plan, and I think everything evolved as things were happening.
Yeah. But over the years, we've seen like there was lack of investment, especially when it came to airport infrastructure, apart from the likes of Kisumu Airport that managed to be constructed or redone over that period. But there seemed to be some lack of investment in airport infrastructure. Just how much did this fire or incidences leading up to that fire kind of change the thinking at Kenya Airports Authority?
I think, Michael, for a long time, the airport infrastructure that was there seemed to be adequate.
Yeah.
People were coming in, they were departing, so there was never that urgency to do anything, and whatever projects that were going on very slowly. Now remember, after the fire, we had no airport to talk about. We had only tents for departing and arriving passengers, and I think that put in an urgency to put in permanent structures, because nobody wants to operate an airport that is in tents.
Whose idea was it for the tents, actually? I've always wanted to ask that question. Because every resource at the airport seemed to be used from the presidential pavilion to people thinking very fast to setting up tents to converting a parking lot into an arrivals terminal. This seems just to be clicking at the right moment.
Exactly. I think we had no choice, of course, but to have tents, because we had no permanent buildings.
Yeah.
There was no time to even put prefabricated structures. So I think during our crisis meetings, I think the tent idea just emerged. We could set them up very quickly because we had said that same day we must resume flight. So what could we set up very quickly to make us realize that it was only tents? And I think the tents became comfortable after a while because we had everything in those tents. Even duty-free was being sold in those tents. Yes.
The government seemed to be playing a key role in this, and perhaps did they also get the kind of awakening that you also got as an agency of the government?
Oh yes, of course. I think everybody then realized that this is an important gateway to the country, and I think it shocked everyone, even the government, into action. And they really supported us. We got a lot of support from the government around this year.
12 months on, what's the biggest change at the airport right now, at JKI specifically?
12 months on, at least we are in a better position than we were, definitely, 12 months ago. Yeah. We have, for instance, today, Kenya Airways is moving now into their terminal. We have finished the test flights in the new terminal, 1A. They're moving in. At least that's very different from what was happening 1 year ago. We also have a terminal 2 that's under construction, which should be ready in about 3 months. About November, we should be able to open that. We also have a lot of other projects that were never there 12 months ago. We have about $1 billion of infrastructure projects going on at this moment. So there's a lot of difference between what was happening 12 months ago and today.
Was it a case of that there were plans lying idle, or no one was taking action on them? Or what was the case before?
I think 12 months ago, the only project that was going on was the Terminal 1A, which we were calling Terminal 4 then. Huh? Everything else, I think, was started after the fire, and I think it's just that lack of urgency, that thinking that what we have is adequate because everything is happening, operations are going on as normal, and I think that is why concentration was not on Nairobi airports, definitely.
Terminal 1A or 4, as we came to know it, was to be opened in July fully, but I think there are some delays, or what's that? Because I hear, again, we're opening in March 2015.
No. Terminal 1A, today Kenya Airways are moving in. 4th of July, the terminal was ready, but you just don't move into a terminal. You test flights, you test scenarios, you test evacuations, fire issues, emergency, lighting, and so on. So all systems were being tested, and some of these systems are supposed to be tested with live flights. So we would run flights, maybe 2 or 3 flights, then close down and start taking stock to see what went on wrong, what went right, and so on. So we've been doing that for about a month, and now we think we are ready. We think all systems are good to go, and that is why from today, Kenya Airways is on fully. Yes.
Just looking at comparing airport infrastructure in Kenya, and Kenya, prides itself in being the aviation hub of East Africa and all that, but just comparing the kind of infrastructure that we have and it is there globally, where do we aspire to put to have Kenyan airports at?
Of course, everybody aspires to be first class, and so we know that we are limited. We cannot be, for instance, like Schiphol or like Dubai overnight. But in whatever infrastructure we have, we want to make sure that it is quality infrastructure, that is enough capacity for our traffic, because right now, remember, we have about 7 million passengers per annum going through JKI. Heathrow maybe has about 8 million passengers, so we cannot build the same infrastructure, but we need to have enough for the traffic that's going through. We also need to make sure that it's quality and it's modern. That is what we are aspiring to be, and always to be ahead of capacity, so that as we forecast how much is going to come in, then we make sure we have enough facilities to accommodate that type of traffic.
JKI, when it was built, I think was built for 2.5-3 million passengers, but by the time when everything came the realization that actually this resource is stretched to the limit, we are doing about 6-7 million passengers. Is that still, was there a lot of interference at the airport then, and what's the plan now for actually enlarging that capacity?
Yes, as I have said, maybe everybody was asleep insofar as JKI is concerned, because yes, it was built for 2.5 million passengers, and by, say, last year, we were doing about 6-point-something passengers. So you can see we were over capacity. I mean, we were taking flights through very narrow capacity. But today, now, we have plans to make sure that we are never in such a situation, because when Terminal 4 opens today, we'll have about 5 million passengers capacity. Then when Terminal 2 opens in November, that adds another 2.5 million. So that is a total of 7.5 million. So compared to a 7 million, we are okay, but not too good.
We are meeting the capacity.
Exactly,
that is
yes. But we don't have enough for expansion. So, of course, there was this other project, which is, we call it Terminal 3 now, but it's known as the Greenfield Terminal, which, remember, is a 20 million capacity terminal. That is going to be the game changer for us. That is going to give us a lot of capacity for the future. And we have started work on that terminal. We expect that by 2018 it should be complete. So we might struggle a little bit with the capacity issues up to 2018. But when that terminal opens, I think we'll be in a good place.
What's the thinking behind renaming the terminals? Because I woke up one day and saw this beautiful ad by Kenya Airports Authority that they have now renamed Terminal, what we used to know as Unit 1, 2, and 3 as Terminal 1A, I think 1B, I can't even remember the names. Yes. What was the thinking behind changing that, the naming of the terminals at JKI?
You know, before we were calling our terminals units. And unit is not a name that is recognized worldwide. For instance, if you get your ticket today and you are going to Dubai, they will tell you on the ticket, you will see it written that you will arrive in Terminal 3. In units cannot be written on the, or cannot appear on the ticket. So we are making sure that our customers know exactly which place to go to in terms of departures, and that is why we decided to change it into terminal. Now, a full terminal is one that has both international and domestic arrivals and departures. So the current JKA, as you know it, is one terminal, and that is how we had to separate the various sections with A, B, C, D. So we have terminal 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. So today, if you get your ticket and you are departing on BA, it will clearly show you that you're departing from terminal 1B, which before was unit 1, which would not show on your ticket. So we're trying to make it easier and also to conform to international standards.
The passenger numbers and kind of air traffic that we're getting, does it warrant construction of a second runway in terms of all the investment that is going into upgrading the infrastructure that we have?
Yes, it does, because right now the current runway we have is about 85% utilization. By the time we hit 2018, it will be at 100%. At 100% means that you start slotting in aircraft, giving them slots, like they do in other busy airports. So we don't want to be caught in that situation. That is why we are now planning for that second runway, so that if it can be in place maybe anytime between 2018 and 2020, then we'll be fine.
There's also the issue about parking space, and I know this comes mainly from people like Kenya Airways, who use JKI as a hub. How are the plans to create like new taxiways or new more parking space for them? Are there sort of those plans on the cards?
Yes, yes. Very soon we'll be launching 16 new parking slots, which we've been building. We call them remote stands because you'll be taken there by bus. That will definitely ease up. Terminal 1A itself has come with 7 parking stands, so that is a total of 16 plus 7, that is 23. And of course, when the greenfield is built, it's got about 50 of the parking stands. So apron parking space for aircraft is very, very important, because aircraft can't park anywhere else. So that goes hand in hand with any expansion of the terminal facilities. Even with the current runway, we have a plan to resurface it and at the same time build additional exit taxiways. So that is going hand in hand with the rest of the expansion.
Let's move on to matters security, and JKI is one very sensitive institution, as I have personally found out for myself interacting with the police officers there. But security is one of those key challenges that we face, and always it's seen as a security installation where security must be taken, not taken lightly. But what measures are being taken to improve the security at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport?
Yes, Mike, apart from the fire, I think in the last 1 year we've been faced with a lot of challenges security-wise. Of course, we always knew that the airport is a sensitive place. It is a security installation, but never to the extent that we found ourselves in. So we had to put in measures that were not planned for before, because in other airports, vehicles drive in and you expect that the vehicles are safe and okay. But for us, we had to make sure now we start screening every vehicle that comes through. We didn't have the infrastructure to do that. Also, the police personnel was not enough to do that. So we had to overnight start making arrangements for that. And we sort of widened the space where the vehicles can be checked, but that's not enough. So we came up with a screening yard, which we are currently constructing, where vehicles, we can have about 16 lanes so that each vehicle can go through very quickly, because right now people are taking about 40 minutes in the queue, which is not good. So we've come up with that. The police have also increased personnel, because this requires a lot of, this is police work, of course. They have increased personnel so that by the time the vehicles come into the airport, we have sort of sanitized about 80% of them. So apart from vehicles, of course, there's also making sure that nobody who is not authorized gets into the buildings, gets onto airside. So we have also sort of introduced new measures in screening people going in. We are now giving all staff access cards, so that staff can only go with biometrics access control, so that it's not the normal ID where the security guard has to check to see whether it's your face or anything like that. We have also put in modern screening equipment like the millimeter wave. I think if you've gone to Europe and so on, you've seen that millimeter wave. We've already introduced that in Terminal 1A, and we're introducing it into, so those kind of measures. We are also putting in an inline baggage handling system that secures all bags that are going out, to make sure that they are detected for everything, explosives and what have you, because before maybe it was not done in such a thorough way. We've also had GSU deployed to the airport, about 120, so that they can secure the flight path and the perimeter, because there's also danger of people trying to shoot down aircraft that are about to land or about to take off. We're also putting up a GSU camp near the national park. So there's a lot going on in terms of measures.
We've seen last month, I think, the Transport Safety Authority from the US actually came in with some kind of equipment that I don't know if they donated or it was a grant that they actually gave you. And why I bring this up is because for years what we've been hearing is that JKIA perhaps is seeking Category 1 status, allowing direct flights to the US. Perhaps are we close to meeting some of the stringent requirements that they have?
Yes, the equipment the American government donated to us is explosive detection equipment, which comes in very handy because, as you know, as the criminals evolve, and they're putting explosives in areas that you would not have thought of. So you need to have an equipment that can detect explosive from your shoes, from your lotions, and what have you. And that is what we got, which is very good. Now, in terms of direct flights and Category 1, those are, by the way, are two different things. Yeah. Direct flights is approved by the American Homeland Security. Category 1 is approved by FAA. Now, we are all working towards the two. And for direct flights, I think they have come here and they have done an audit twice, and the results of the audit are very positive. So we're just waiting to see whether they say yes, and the first American airline could start flying here next year. In terms of Category 1 FAA, we are also very close to that. And remember, the biggest contentious issues in terms of Category 1 was separation of arriving and departing passengers, which we've now done completely. At the airport, we do not mix arriving and departing passengers. And the other things are issues now to do with the KCAA, that is the oversight authority. Yes, yeah. And I think we are also getting there. So we are very confident that the two issues will be resolved very, very soon.
All right. Just finally, as we wind up, has to do with something that is happening in West Africa and the Ebola crisis or epidemic that is there. And we know we have flights that are flying into that region. Have you put screening measures at the airport just to ensure that this epidemic doesn't get into our borders?
Yes, we have. In fact, we are having crisis meetings every day. Of course, this is the Ministry of Health is taking the lead in this. But us, as the management of the airport, of course, we are also very concerned. So we've given them facilities where all the flights from West Africa are going through a separate sort of gate, and they are putting screening measures. They are now starting to take temperatures. Kenya Airways also is making sure that before the passengers board, they are taking the temperatures, they are observing on board, and once they land here, we have the isolation rooms and so on. So we're just observing as it happens, and we're increasing measures by the day.
Right.
Yes.
Finally, is all the investment just being made at JKI, or are the other airports getting a share of this cake?
Oh, all the other airports are getting a share of the cake. Remember, Kisumu is done, and in fact, we are doing a second phase. Malindi, we've just opened a new terminal building. Lamu, we are resurfacing the runway and extending it. We are about to also, in terms of Moi Airport, Mombasa, we are resurfacing the runway and improving the pavement. So there's a lot going on. There's so many airstrips that we are working on around the country. So it's not JKI, just JKI. JKI gets the lion's share, of course, for obvious reasons, but you're doing this across the country.
All right. Lucy Mbugua, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Michael.
All right. Sophia, so you're here now. You have nothing to worry about when you are actually traveling. You'll be there screening for Ebola. There is enough security checks just to ensure that you are safe.